Hello everyone, I'm Dr. John Gurban, PhD in Mechanical Engineering. In this video, I want to have a discussion on the signs of stock market crash. Of course, if you can predict the stock market crash, you can sell your shares. I hope you like this video. Okay. As I mentioned in present video, the results of research by scientists from different universities, including University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, are used. As I mentioned in previous videos in my channel, regardless of your level of knowledge, the concepts will be explained in a clear and understandable way. Okay, forecasting financial market crashes remains one of the most complex challenges in financial economics. The story of modern financial markets is faced by episodes of severe instability, crises, and crashes that have exerted effects on the global economy and social welfare. Events such as the dot-com bubble collapse in 2000, the global financial crisis of 2008, and the sudden market downturn induced by the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 serve as stark reminders of how market instability can erode wealth, paralyze credit systems, trigger widespread unemployment, and undermine investor and consumer confidence. In this high-stakes context, the ability to forecast market instability and stock market crashes represents one of the most significant challenges for the academics and investors. Here in this figure, I have left two tables for you. One is related to the USA and the other is related to France. In the first column of both tables, I have specified the years of the fall in the stock market. And in the second column, I have specified the amount of the market fall. You should learn some lessons from these two tables. One is that the collapse of the stock market has happened many times and will happen again, maybe tomorrow. Second, sometimes the fall of the stock market is so heavy that it can have very significant effects on your economic life. Okay. One of the methods to predict the fall of a country's stock market is the country's GDP. GDP, gross domestic product, is a simple way to measure the size of a country's economy. It represents the total value of all goods and services produced inside a country during a specific period, usually 1 year. If a country produces things like cars, food, houses, apps and software, medical services, education, the value of all those things added together becomes the GDP. Very simple, okay? Economics and governments use GDP to understand how big the economy is, whether the economy is growing or shrinking, how well a country is performing. One important thing, GDP measures economic activity, but it does not measure happiness or quality of life directly. For example, a country can have high GDP but still have inequality, poverty, environmental problems like US. If I want to summarize, when GDP increases, it usually means businesses are producing more, people are spending more, and jobs are being created. This is called economic growth. If GDP falls, it can signal economic slowdown or recession, where businesses produce less and unemployment may rise. It is clear that the stock market of a country is an image of the country's economy. And as I mentioned above, the economy of a country shows itself in the form of GDP. So, it is reasonable to say that there is a direct and important relationship between the stock market and GDP. Okay, this figure. This figure is related to the relationship between the US stock market and the US GDP. The dotted line shows GDP and the black line shows the stock market trend, S&P 500. This chart is between 1950 and 2012, about 60 years. It can be clearly seen that these two have moved together in these years. And if, for example, in the years near 2000, the stock market had a bubble known as the dot-com bubble, then there was a fall in the stock market to reach the GDP graph. This rule has been true for nearly 60 years, as I mentioned. And so now you're thinking to yourself that you found a great way to spot a stock market crash before it happens. On the face of it, your thinking is correct and it is consistent with the data of these 60 years. But we have a challenge, and that is the behavior of the stock market from 2012 until now. Okay, the challenge. In this new figure, please pay attention. The same stock market and GDP have been compared again, as in the figure on the previous page. But there are two differences. One is that the comparison has been made until 2026, and the other is that the graphs of the stock market and GDP are not drawn separately, but their ratio is drawn. That is the red graph that you see is the ratio of the stock market, S&P 500, to GDP. Okay, as you can see, until around 2012, this ratio fluctuates around the blue line, which is the average value. And whenever it has bubble and it has some distances from the blue line, such as in 1999 and 2007, the stock market has bubbled and crashed, and the red graph returns to the blue line, which is the average value. So far, all the contents are similar to the previous page. But since 2012, we have observed the red line rapidly diverging from the average, the blue line. Based on what has been discussed so far, one would expect a massive stock market crash. But economists have different opinions on this issue. Some of them exactly expect a heavy fall in the stock market similar to the past few decades. But some do not believe in the fall of the stock market, despite the fact that the red chart is far from the blue line, as you can see. So we have two different opinions. Okay. The arguments raised by the opponents might seem scientifically complex to some of you. I will outline these arguments quickly in about a minute. It does not matter if you do not fully grasp them. What matters is the conclusion I will draw afterwards. Okay. The argument raised by the opponents. GDP growth is driven by wages. By wages and employment levels. However, the stock market is driven by earnings per share, EPS, as you know. When corporations invest in AI or automation to boost productivity, it significantly increases business profits without necessarily creating more jobs or boosting local wages. So, it is logical that due to the increase in profits, the stock market will grow, same as after 2012. But the GDP will not increase accordingly. In the past, before 2012, when these two, GDP and stock market, came together, things such as AI was not existed. Okay. According to the examination, the arguments from both sides appear somewhat believable, making it difficult to reach a decision. So what should be done? If you want the reasoning of one side to be definitive and correct, you would naturally act accordingly. However, if you find the arguments from both sides somewhat logical, the prudent course of actions seems to be slightly reduce your shares. This way, if the market rises, the shares you retain will appreciate. Whereas if the market falls, you will face a smaller loss. Of course, there is a crucial point for all of you to consider. Please pay attention. There are other factors beyond the ones discussed that help predict whether the stock market will crash or not. These factors also need to be examined to ensure your conclusions are comprehensive and well-rounded. I will cover these additional factors in future videos so that you can make decisions based on knowledge. Okay, I hope you found today's video useful and that it has added to your investment knowledge. Thank you for watching.